Hello everybody, Sean Dotson with The Flip Side, and today I want to talk about treasure maps. More specifically, I want to talk about my theory that the poem is a literary version of a treasure map. So to begin this, I'm going to start off with a Q&A from Mysterious Writings dating back to March 10th of 2015. And Jenny Kyle asked this question to Forrest. Dear Forrest, had you read about other treasure hunts and their different methods used to hide treasure before deciding to write a poem? Is there a reason you chose to write a poem? And Forrest responds, Thanks, Jenny. I have read only about treasures that were hidden by pirates, and I wish I could find one of those. I wrote the poem in my book because I needed an avenue where I could present clues and start searchers on the chase. I worked on it for a long time, and am pleased that it did its job so well. And I read that answer from Forrest, and I begin to wonder what stories about pirates and treasure is he talking about. You know, because I'm a product of the 80s. When I think about treasure stories, I think about the Goonies, I think about Indiana Jones, and I also think about even, Benjamin Gates from the National Treasure movies. But Forrest Fenn and I are not from the same generation. He's from the time of stories like, Treasure Island with Long John Silver, or stories about Blackbeard, and even Captain Kidd, who he alludes to in the words immediately following the poem that we all know. And in all those stories, everything revolves around treasure. But, in a treasure story, don't we always need a treasure map? I believe so. I believe every good treasure story needs a treasure map. And I believe that that treasure map is the poem. And if you look at the words that just precede the poem, it says, So I wrote a poem containing 9 clues that, if followed precisely, will lead to the end of my rainbow and a treasure. And it's very easy for me to infer from those words that the purpose of the poem is to obviously lead us to the treasure, right? And has Forrest not blatantly told us that the poem is a map? I mean, just his words and him saying, stop armchairing that thing to death and get out in the trees where the box is. But before you go, look at the poem as if it were a map, because it is. And like any other map, it will tell you where to go if you follow its directions, right? So if you kind of meld those two things together, you get the fact that the poem really is a map to the treasure. Okay, so it's a treasure map. But I tell you, when I envision in my mind a treasure map, I don't think of just 166 words, right? I mean, if you're anything like me, I envision that map like in the movie Goonies, where the kids find this map up in the attic, and behind that glass frame, and they pull it out, and it's this tattered piece of parchment with all kinds of writing, Spanish writing and stuff on it. But what is the one thing that we always kind of envision that every treasure map has? Is it not that X on the map? The X marks the spot, where the treasure is, right? And has Forrest Fenn not told us to read the blogs for entertainment and the poem as if you were going to put an X on the map? I mean, if that's not in your face, I don't know what. So if our treasure map is supposed to have that X on the map, where the treasure is, and isn't that the one letter that we're missing from the poem, the X? I mean, there's all kinds of talk on the forums about that, about that missing X. So is that what we're not trying to find, that X on the map, right? But there's also something that we always need on a treasure map, and that thing is we've got to know where to start, okay? We can't find where we're going if we don't know where to start. And has Forrest not emphasized that time and time again? You've got to figure out where to start. You've got to know where warm waters halt. He also says, I cannot imagine anyone finding the treasure without first figuring out the starting point. Okay, we get it, Forrest, right? We need the starting point. So we've got to have our warm waters halt, the starting point, and then we've got to have where we're going, that X on the map. And what we probably all believe that X on the map is the blaze, right? So we've got our starting point, or where warm waters halt, and our blaze. So we've got these two things, and that's kind of what I envision on the map. But I don't ever envision, just 166 words being a map. I envision that map. So I go once again back to Forrest's answer to Jenny in that question, where he said, I only read stories about treasure that were hidden by pirates. So what could he be referring to there? And what I think he's referring to is one classic tale that's out there about treasure, about pirates, and about what I believe is quite possibly a literary version of a treasure map. And that is a story that was written in 1843 by none other than Edgar Allan Poe, and that is The Gold Bug. And if you've never read The Gold Bug, I highly recommend that when you're done with this video to go out and read it, because it's a great story, and you're going to find a lot of things in there that are going to jump out at you immediately, as I did. And I want to give some props to Jenny Kyle, who in 2013 wrote on her website an article called "How to Solve Forrest Fenn's Poem," and this really revolved around the gold bug. And again, once you're done with this video, I highly recommend you go read her website and read this. But it's all about the similarities between Forrest Fenn's treasure story and the gold bug itself. And if you're not familiar with the gold bug, and I won't go into too much detail because I want you to read this for yourself, but if you're not familiar with the story of the gold bug, it is about a character named William Legrand, and the narrator of the story finding a piece of parchment, and on that piece of parchment, when it is heated up, it has some kind of encryption on it. And William Legrand is able to decrypt this encryption into what is English. And I don't want to give too much away about how he does that and the understanding of that, because I think you'll get the similarities. But it comes out in plain English, and it's just a bunch of instructions, and those instructions are in English. And it's very similar to Forrest Fenn's poem. And if you're like me as a poem purist, I believe that grammar is key, and grammar is, in my opinion, key to decrypting, Forrest Fenn's poem. And much like what Legrand did, is that he had to decrypt, from an encryption to put it into English, and then from English, he still got to follow the instructions, kind of like we do in Forrest Fenn's poem. So there's these very, what I see is a mirroring image between Forrest Fenn's poem and that which is in the gold bug. So I highly recommend you go read that and look at it, because there's some very, very good similarities that will make you kind of understand, like I do, that the poem really is the literary version of the treasure map. But we still need, again, that starting point. We still got to figure out where warm waters halt. And if you don't know where it is, Forrest Fenn has said, go back to the first clue. So that is of the utmost importance, is we've got to figure out that starting point. And then from there, we follow the instructions like Legrand did in the gold bug to get us to where the treasure is. And I think that there's still potentially more to do there to uncover it, and that's where I go. But I hope that you take the time to go back and look at Jenny Kyle's synopsis on the gold bug, and I hope that you take the time to go read or listen to it on audiobooks or whatever, the gold bug. It's definitely a good read, and I think you'll really enjoy it, and you'll really see what I'm talking about. So I hope you like this video, and if you have, please like it, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and please put some comments in there. I'm interested to hear your feedback, and you know what, we'll catch you all on the flip side.